Hi, and welcome to TopSolid 7. In this video, we're going to take a look at importing a DXF file and then how and what you need to do in order to use it for machining. Remember, TopSolid is meant to be a 3D based application, so we're always looking for solid models to drive everything. But sometimes you just need to work off of something in a more simplistic way. So let's have a look. Here in my project, I already have a DXF file present. I'm going to right click on it and choose Convert Document. If you don't have a DXF file in here already, you can right click on the folder, go to Import Export, and import file with conversion to, your DXF file, DWG file, whatever. So if I go here and choose Convert Document, when this comes up, of course I can zoom out, look at my model. I can look at the layers that are there if there are any layers already. So for example, you know what? I don't care about the title block, I don't care about the dims or the notes. We'll just bring in everything else. Apparently whoever made this one left all that stuff on a random layer as well. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Now we have our part. Before we can do anything with this part, I want to simplify some things, right? So first things first, I'm going to go to my sketches here. I'm going to right click on my sketch and make it editable. Because when you import a DXF file, it's imported just as you see. I'm going to say keep profiles. This will get rid of all text, okay? But it's not really a usable entity yet. Now it's a usable entity. Now I can edit this. Now, if you have a drawing on your workbench already and you already know the depths of everything, you can get rid of everything you don't need, okay? But I'm going to say I don't want that. I'm going to say I don't want this. Maybe I don't need this. I don't need this. And you know what? Since I have all the information down here, I don't need that one either. But I'm going to leave this one just for fun, okay? And now that's as far as I'm going to take it. Now, before I can send this into a machining document, I need to tell TopSolid to add this to the representations. Because again, always looking for a solid model. Since one doesn't exist, we're going to kind of cheat a little bit. We're going to say, let's put the plate in the design representation and in the detailed representation. It needs to be in at least both of those. If it makes you feel better, throw it in the simplified as well. Hit save. I'm going to hit Control S in my case. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to send this into a machining document. Now in this case, I'm going to use a template. You can use your favorite template, do whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and validate, and that's going to load a CAM document and include my 2D drawing there. Okay. Now here it's asking me if I want to build stock. I'm going to say no stock, in fact, just to show you complete down and dirty how to do things. Next, it wants to know if you want to position this. You can, but the plate already exists on the XY plane. That's really all that matters. So I'm going to validate my positioning group. About the only thing that I care about is where I put my 0 or my G54. So let's fix that right away. I'm going to edit this, turn off automatic positioning, and I'm going to say, you know what, let's put it at the midpoint between that segment and the center of that. Perfect. That'll be my G54. Like that, I'm ready to start working. Now, before I can start working, I got to kind of work on these profiles, because if I tried, for example, to go to end milling and go to my geometry and go to select this, you see how it's selecting just single segments? That's because on imported geometries, the software doesn't know what's what. It doesn't know what goes with what. It's just imported dumb sketches. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of rebuild our sketches. But in some cases, we're going to rebuild by drawing new sketches. In other cases, we're going to project sketches. And the act of doing this also is going to let us clean the sketches at the same time. Now, this is one method to get to the finish line when using sketches only to create toolpath. There is about 2 or 3 other ways to do this. So here's what we're going to do. First, I just want to make a rectangle representative of the entire top of the part so that I can create a facing toolpath. So I'm going to right click, make a sketch. I'm going to go to my rectangle command, parallel the axes, and I'm going to go from point A to point B. Perfect. I'm going to validate that sketch. I'm even going to go into my sketch folder here, and I'm going to call this sketch for facing, just so that I know what it is. Okay? I may turn that off for the moment. Next, I'm going to build another sketch for this area out here to cut this open pocket. So I'm going to create a sketch on the XY plane. This time I'm going to project that sketch, and then I'm going to draw a line connecting the two. This is just so we can describe the open section of the sketch for pocketing. I'm going to validate out of that. I'm going to rename this open pocket sketch. Now, you don't have to rename these sketches. That's completely optional to you. Okay, I like to do it so that I know what's what. Now, from there, turn that off. I'm going to go back to cam mode up here. And then back in my entities tree, I'm going to go to my parts folder and I'm going to turn off what the software sees as the machinable part. That's that part that I included. This way I can focus on just the sketches I want to work with. So I want to work with my open pocket sketch. Here, select it, right click, go to end milling. You can see it's looking at the entire sketch now. Mine came up and chose my face mill because that's my first tool in my tool list there. Here you can see there's an asterisk. There's an asterisk here because it's missing a bunch of things. If you notice, it's even telling you what it's missing. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's click on that and let's go to where the problem is. If I come up to my altitudes tab, notice my starting altitude is missing, my clearance, all these final altitudes are missing. So the starting altitude is where the toolpath is going to start calculation from. The machining altitude is where it's going to machine to. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm going to start at 1/8 inch above my 0. My machining altitude is based off my profile location, which is on my Z0 right now, so that's perfect. And now here, I'm just going to start adding my different rapid planes. Once you have them, you're going to get toolpath. Now, right now, this is set to pocket. If I set this to an open pocket or a face scene or something like that, we'll probably get what we're looking for here. Let's go ahead and validate. Oops, looks like I made a mistake. Let's go back. There we go. Click too fast. Here we have our facing, as you can see. If you want, you can change the strategy of the facing. Come to successive contouring, change it to sweeping. You can set how and where this is overlapping. You can even go closer to the part if you want. Would help not to fat finger the value. So if I say -1, you see that sucks it in closer to the part. Okay, and like that, you have your facing. Perfect. Now, let's go to our entities and let's turn on our open pocket because that's what I want to work on next. So my open pocket, again, I can go here, start in space even. I don't want to use this tool, so let's go change our tool. I'm going to come here and say, how about my 3/4 inch end mill instead? That looks good. We need some geometry, so let's go to geometry, click here. Let's change this to open pocket because that's what we want this to be. And then in my geometry section, I can double click on open zone and say this is the open section of that pocket. Okay. Now, again, we have to set our altitudes, right? So our altitudes, in this case, is the starting altitude is 0 because again, we've done our facing. The clearance altitude, this is your rapids, right? Rapids, rapids. Now here you only see one pass. Why? Because the machining altitude is machining to the altitude of that sketch. Now we want to change that, but we don't know how deep to go. So let's go turn our part back on, right? And we can go here, go to Analyze, and Measure. So let's go here. I'm going to measure this segment. Look at that. That's 3/8 of an inch. Perfect. I can turn this off, zoom back out, and now I'm going to come back into my machining altitude, and I'm just going to set this to a value from my G54, right? So -0.375. So it's plunging in the open zone. Off we go. We're cutting our pockets. All the other settings in there work like normal TopSolid cam settings. Okay? So let's review. We've done a facing. We've done an open pocketing. Next, let's look at another way of controlling this. Okay? So if I go back and turn on the overall part, right? I'm going to turn off this sketch. If we look at this, there's some kind of shelf right here, right? And you can see that right there. And that's actually 3/8. So I made a mistake when I measured before. It should have been the plate thickness for this through pocket. That's okay. Let's go see if we can fix that really quick. Let's go here, analyze that length. It's 1.5 inches. Great. Let's go back to this operation really quick. Go to settings. Go to our altitudes and set that at -1.5. Better. Okay. Now, let's go back here and now let's make this one. But to be different, I'm going to show you another way to work. So every time you're machining on profiles and just strictly to profiles, it's always going to machine to the altitude of the profile. So if we know that about TopSolid, then the best thing that you can do is put your profiles at the correct altitude. So this is what I mean. I'm going to start by going to my construction tab here and offsetting a plane. We know that this detail here is 3/8 of an inch down. Okay, so you can see that I practiced before making this video. The value here is already at 3/8. That's perfect. Okay, we also want to do another offset, right? So let's offset again. We can do it from this sketch, that's fine. And we want it to be the depth of the pocket here, but I don't know what the depth of that pocket is. So what happens if we would go and measure it? We can go select this, and that's 875, cool. But we want to be in the negative direction, I believe. So let's flip this, perfect. So now we have our two sketch planes that we need. Let's start with this 875 sketch plane. We'll start a sketch there. I'm going to go to project, and I'm just going to select these edges. You can window select them if you like, doesn't matter. And now those are at 875 deep. Perfect. I can even name that one blind pocket. Okay. Now I'm going to go to this plane, make a sketch there, again with project. I'm going to project just the edges that we need. Okay. And maybe this one, if we go down to sketches here, this is going to be called open pocket 2. Perfect. All right, let's go back. And then from here, again, I'm going to go to my entities tree. I'm going to turn this off, and we can do our machining. Okay. I can even take these planes if you want. Notice they show up here when you select them. I can turn them off. I don't need them anymore. So let's start with this one. This is going to be our pocket. We'll go to end milling, right? We're going to go here into our settings. The only thing we need to worry about is the starting altitude, which is 0, and then our clearance altitudes, right? These are the rapids. The reason why we have to type those in is, again, TopSolid is looking for 3D shapes to calculate all this stuff off of. When it doesn't have them, you have to input that information. So there's the pocket. Let's do the same thing on this one. So let's go here. We'll do an end milling. Let's change this to an open pocket. We'll go ahead and go to our geometry really quick. And we'll come up here, double click on open zone, and this time we're going to say all 3 of these segments are open. Perfect. And then why don't we see if we can borrow some values. I'm going to say I want to use the same pocketing routine as that. There. Perfect. And all that did was let me drag and drop a copy so that my altitudes were all correct. So I'm going to go back here to none. That's perfect. 0, 1, 1. And we're good. We now have an open pocket. We have our pocket. We have our other open pocket. So again, this is showing you another way to work with TopSolid. It's just showing you a way how to import a 2D sketch, or pardon me, a DXF, and then bring those geometries over, whether they're clean, bad, good, doesn't matter. You clean up the geometry a little bit inside a TopSolid cam, you make your toolpath, you move on.